I might get some juice on your mic. So originally, this vinyl flooring, I was going to glue it to the wall, but I'm like, why put stress on me and just put it on wood and put it up. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about how to shoot in low light with the Sony A7 III and Slog2 and HLG2. So there aren't any like real ways to shoot in low light with any camera or in any picture profile. Basically, all you need is just the perfect amount of light and a good fast lens. And when I say fast lens, I'm talking about like an aperture of like a 1.4 or a 2.0. I wouldn't go anything over a 2.0. But for an example, these shots I'm going to be posting overlapping this video right now are all shot on the A7 III, and Slog2 and HLG2. Most of them are shot with the Sigma 35mm 1.4 in all manual, which I would prefer for anyone to shoot in low light, just because you're going to be having a lot of hunting going on. You kind of don't want the camera to kind of decide on what to focus, because really the camera can't read your mind. So what I would do is put it in manual focus and basically go from there. So one of the steps that I would go about in shooting low light with A7 III in a log profile such as the S-Log or the HLG is basically just trying to get lighting just perfect. You don't need too much lighting, but you don't want it to be too dark, because when you go into grade it, you want to be able to crush those blacks enough to where you kind of get rid of the grain, and that's what I feel like a lot of people are having problems with, is your footage is a little too grainy because you're not crushing those blacks. And so what I would do to crush those blacks is to kind of overexpose the image a tad, and you can do this, you know, with your f-stop or in your shutter speed, which I kind of don't really would suggest, but it also depends on the type of look you're going for. So basically, what I keep hearing is, did you expose one stop over? Did you expose two stops over? How did you expose? Or, you know, what did you set the dial on the top right there to? And I'll be honest with you, I don't even go by that terminology because I was never taught that. I was kind of more self-taught in the sense of exposing an image properly. Basically, what I do is I just look at the screen, and if I like what I see, and if the highlights have to look just right. They don't want to look too blown out. If they're too blown out, you can't really bring them back, because we aren't really shooting raw. We're just shooting in 8-bit 4K or HD or whatever. So what I would do is basically get a fast lens, know your color grading as well. You should know on what kind of look you're going for. If you're going to add a log LUT or a Rec 709 LUT, a log LUT or a Rec 709 LUT, and you are going to get a big difference in applying one or the other LUT to your footage. If you're shooting in log, the whole purpose of shooting an Slog2 is to get that log look, which is like a soft, muddy look, but kind of contrasty as well. So when you do this in low light, you might be getting some grain in your shadows, in the blacks. So you might have to crush those a little bit. You have to make sure that those blacks are going to look nice and clean, and not too grainy. But if you do have some grain there, if you are using DaVinci Resolve or Adobe Premiere, whatever one, you can just add a tiny bit of noise reduction, which I have been adding a little bit in the video that's been playing overlapping this video. I didn't add too much, but then again, if you add too much, you're kind of taking away the clarity from the image. Just try not to follow people's instructions on exposing one stop over, two stops over, because that might get you a little confused. Look at your screen. If you like what you see, then just roll with it. You know, don't always go by the rules, because my opinion, rules are meant to be broken, and sometimes it's actually better that way. and you kind of teach yourself knowing the camera your way instead of other people teaching you the camera their way, because everyone has a different way of learning. That's how I was taught. I was basically picking up the camera, shooting all the time, and basically just trial and error, basically, you know, going around in your house just shooting your dogs or shooting anything. And I basically kind of taught myself by shooting all these boxing videos, shooting homemade videos, and getting familiar with the camera, especially if you're shooting in S-Log or HLG. It's a totally different story compared to shooting with the regular profile, because if your image isn't exposed properly, it's either not going to look good or it is going to look good. So I highly recommend you going out there, practicing, getting to know the profile, getting to know how the highlights are handled with the log profile, or just getting to know the camera in general. But yeah, so those are my tips on how to shoot in low light on the Sony A7 III. Keep an eye out for another video. I'm going to be talking about the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K camera and why I think it's a beast. So we'll see you soon.
Invent yourself and then reinvent yourself. Don't swim in the same slough. Invent yourself and then reinvent yourself. And stay out of the clutches of mediocrity. Invent yourself and then reinvent yourself. Change your tone and shape so often that they can never categorize you. Reinvigorate yourself and accept what is, but only on the terms that you have invented and reinvented. Be self-taught and reinvent your life, because you must. It is your life, and its history and the present belong only to you. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. All the way. All the way. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is.